For oral answer. Question number 1, the Honourable Bill English.
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does she stand by her statement today that she has, quote, no basis to remove Rt Hon Winston Peters' ministerial warrant? If so, why?
Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Michael Cullen.
On behalf of the Prime Minister, what the Prime Minister actually said earlier today was that the proceedings of Parliament's Privileges Committee last night provided no basis for her to remove Mr Peters' ministerial warrant today.
A supplementary question, the Honourable Bill English.
Can the Prime Minister confirm that one of her roles is to supervise the application of the Cabinet Manual to her ministers, which says that at all times ministers are expected to behave in a way that upholds and is seen to uphold the highest ethical standards, and that by refusing to sack Mr Peters, is she telling the New Zealand public that she believes that he has at all times over the last 6 months behaved in a way that upholds and is seen to uphold the highest ethical standards?
Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Michael Cullen.
Madam Speaker, one of the very highest ethical standards that any Prime Minister should seek to uphold is the rule of law. That means going through proper process.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Bill English.
Can the Prime Minister confirm that at the heart of this controversy is a donation of $100,000 to a senior Cabinet Minister or his party, and that over a period of 6 months that donation has not been adequately explained?
A point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Madam Speaker, you would expect that parliamentarians understand the importance of words. The claim made in that question is patently and absurdly false. Mr Glenn has now made it very clear, though his emails at the time said otherwise, that he did not pay any money to New Zealand First. So that's the first count. The second one, he admits he never paid any money to me either. That's the second one. The third one is the issue is about whether he paid it to a lawyer's account.
No, I thank the member. These are matters of debate. The Honourable Bill English. A point of order, the Honourable Peter Dunn.
Madam Speaker, that exchange raises an issue that's been troubling me for some days, and that relates to the exchange of information in this House about matters which are material to the deliberations that the Privileges Committee is now embarking upon. And, Madam Speaker, I'd be grateful for your advice as to the extent to which the general debate in this House about the broad swell of allegations is, if you like, limited by or influenced by the proceedings in the Privileges Committee, because there are members in this House who sit on the Privileges Committee who are hearing all of this at the same time as hearing the evidence and trying to reach a fair and balanced decision.
The Honourable Dr Michael Cullen.
Yes, we have great sympathy with what the member says, but the reality is that evidence which is given to a select committee in open meeting is able to be referred to, and the House has never in the past constrained its ability to refer to that kind of evidence. What can't be referred to are the proceedings going on within the committee, the deliberations of the committee on matters where the committee has not been in open session.
Yes, my understanding these matters have actually been raised in open session, so therefore it's for the House to do so. The Honourable Bill English.
Can the Prime Minister confirm that one constraint on her ability to act to enforce the Cabinet Manual, which requires ministers to behave in a way that upholds and is seen to uphold the highest ethical standards, is because her own behaviour has not upheld or been seen to uphold the highest ethical standards?
The Honourable
Speaker,
Dr Michael Cullen.
On behalf of the
Order.
Prime Minister, no.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Bill English.
Supplementary. Did she, in the course of her phone call with Mr Peters in February, after the meeting with Mr Glenn, mention her conversation with Mr Glenn where he told her he had made a donation? And if she didn't tell Mr Peters that Mr Glenn had told her he'd made a donation, why didn't she?
The Honourable Dr Michael Cullen.
Prime Minister certainly recollects raising with Mr Peters the issue of whether a donation had been made, whether that donation was to New Zealand First or to any other purpose was not clear at the time. Mr Glenn makes certain allegations. Certainly the Prime Minister does not recollect whether she mentioned to Mr Peters whether Mr Glenn was responsible for raising that matter in that form, but she accepts Mr Glenn's assertion in that respect.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Bill English.
So is the Prime Minister now telling us that, having been advised by Mr Glenn that he had written out a cheque for $100,000, when she spoke to Mr Peters, she didn't mention that particular fact?
The Honourable Dr Michael Cullen.
I just said the Prime Minister accepts Mr Glenn's statement in that regard. Unlike the member who apparently has a perfect memory for everything that happened in his life, except the 2 weeks he was Deputy Leader of the National Party. Madam Speaker, what completely gets forgotten in this debate so far, time after time, is the context in which this occurred was the story both on television the previous night and New Zealand Herald that morning that Mr Jones had indicated that an anonymous donation somewhere close to $110,000, I think was the phrase used, had been perhaps given in relation to the Auditor General's requirement of New Zealand First to repay $158,000. The context was not in any sense or form any kind of payment made to Mr Peters' lawyer.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Can the Prime Minister confirm that, having seen the 21 February PR firm email, Mr Glenn distinctly refers to the words New Zealand First, and that is most likely what he told her, an allegation or claim which was easily rebutted?
The Honourable Dr Michael Cullen.
That indeed is what that email says, though of course Mr Glenn tried to claim to the Privileges Committee that he had no recollection of the context around the Auditor General's $158,000, a claim about as credible as his statement that he paid Mike Williams large sums of money to buy KFC for apparently hundreds of Pacific Island people in Mangere.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Bill English.
Well, can the Prime Minister confirm that the record of evidence shows that Mr Peters has a clear recollection of the account of the conversation in February?
A point of order, Taito Philip Field.
Speaker, given we're so focused on being accurate and truthful in everything that we say, I distinctly recall listening to the news last night where the Kentucky Fried Chicken refers to Manariwa, not Mangere.
Oh, well, that's a point of information, I'm sure. Sorry, the supplementary question, the Honourable Bill English. Order. I've called the member.
Does the Prime Minister agree? Does the Prime Minister agree with Mr Peters' account of the conversation in February when he said, "The PM checked with me after the Glen Business School opening and I told her the newspaper claims were not true. She did not mention any conversation with Mr Glen, as I recall." And if she doesn't agree with that account of the conversation, why not?
Madam Speaker,
the Honourable Dr Michael Cullen.
I have discussed that matter with the Prime Minister.
Order.
She does not agree with that particular part of Mr Peters' statement. That doesn't change the general thrust of the discussion.